Okay, we are here. We're alive. I want to thank you all for joining me today. And if you can all see and hear me clearly, please do me the biggest favor in the live chat and drop a one in the live chat for me, just so I know that you can see and hear me clearly. And also, while you all are doing that, if you're new to the channel, please make sure you hit the subscribe button as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button so you can be notified whenever I release a new video. Please hit the thumbs up on this video, hit the like button on this video so that it will be sent out throughout the YouTube algorithm and it will let YouTube know that people are actually interested in this content so that they can push it out even more. And lastly, please share this video on your social media platforms as well so that people know that I'm currently live and that it also helps out in the algorithm as well so that YouTube knows people are interested in this content. So I see the ones are starting to come in so we can get today's show started. Perfect. So now our good friend, our good brother, right? Brandon Johnson is back at it again. Brandon Johnson in the Johnson administration, we should say in Chicago, the mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, he has a new scheme that he's working on in which he will be now providing $25 million to pay for the rent of illegal immigrants in the city of Chicago for 6 months. Okay. That's currently what is happening. Now, that news came by way of, I believe it was the Chicago Tribune. But what I'm going to do is right now is that I'm going to read a few paragraphs. I think it's about 2 paragraphs that I'm going to read. And I'm not going to lie, this is definitely from a super far right website, right? And the reason I say that is just because it's really irritating. They're you'll see they're big on the whole far leftist mayor, liberal woke policies. It's just like, oh Lord, yeah, they be killing me on those sites, when they go in on the woke this, woke that, and stuff. That's why I'm only reading the first two paragraphs of that article. But if you're looking for the original source of this information does come from the Chicago Tribune. So now let me pull up this article right now and let's go through the first 2 paragraphs, because what I want to do is that I want to go through that so that I can quickly pivot to what Brandon Johnson is doing for the Black community in Chicago, right? And the thing is that when we get into that, we're both going to find out what that is together, because as far as I know, he's still not doing anything. He loves to talk about putting money back into historically disinvested communities. He talks a lot about disinvested communities. I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean. People tell me that disinvested communities is supposed to mean Black and brown communities in Chicago. I don't know what that means personally, because unless you're talking about Black neighborhoods specifically and you're saying it like that, then you're not saying anything, right? That's just the rule of thumb. So, but like I said, people tell me he's talking about Black and brown communities. We're going to see if he's even doing anything concerning that. But there is something that he is doing. And like I said, I haven't read that article yet, so we will both be surprised together. But first, let's get into the actual article at hand that I want to get into, that just quickly discusses the $25 million that will be going towards paying the rent of illegal immigrants in the city of Chicago for the next 6 months. So let's get into that right now. And I'm going to pull that up on the screen. And while I'm doing that, once again, there are 127, I was going to say 127 million of you in here right now. There are 127 of you in here right now, 134 now to be exact. Please hit the like button if you haven't already. Please hit that like button and give me just 1 second. I want to make sure that my phone is on silent so we don't get disturbed. Okay. So my apologies for that. Give me a moment. Okay. I'm ready now. So let's get into this article. And like I said, this is the article right here. I believe it's from freebeacon, it's called.com. Chicago mayor eyes $25 million plan to cover rent for illegal immigrants. Let's go through this very quickly. Okay. So, and like I said, this is going to be a little bit on the rough side to read with the whole far left, woke, this, that, and the third. But anyways, Chicago's new far left mayor, Brandon Johnson, is working to implement a $25 million program that would subsidize rent costs for illegal immigrants, a plan that comes as Johnson's liberal allies press him to cut funding for other priorities such as policing. Johnson is eyeing a plan to provide more than 6,500 illegal immigrants with 6 months of rental assistance, a program that will cost $25 million, according to the Chicago Tribune. Both city and state taxpayers would be on the hook for the plan, given that Johnson is seeking state assistance to fund it. In addition to the rent subsidies, Johnson wants to work with the federal government to expedite work permits for the illegal immigrants so they can sustain themselves after the subsidies expire. You can characterize our strategy as ultimately resettlement. Johnson's deputy chief staff, Christina, I believe her last name is uh, whatever, Christina, told the Tribune. That Christina told the Tribune. What's up, Rob? I see our good brother Rob from Blacklight Revelations 2 is in here. I think I saw that you were live earlier. I hope you didn't end your live stream because of me. If you did, I appreciate it, but I highly doubt it. I know you rock with me, and you're my man 100 gram, but I know you don't like me that much. Rob is definitely not going to stop his live stream because I'm live right now. But that's the current news, right? Concerning what's happening in Chicago right now. $25 million to subsidize the rent of illegal immigrants in the city. But when it comes to Black communities across Chicago, right? Those who voted him in, nothing yet. You see, Brandon does a lot of talking surrounding, once again, coming back to this term that he loves to use, disinvestment, right? Disinvested communities. And people say that it's supposed to mean Black and brown communities. Some people say he's talking about the Black community in codified language. As you know, all know, when it comes to me, I don't respect any of that. When it comes to politicians and what they plan to do for the Black community, you have to tell me and you have to tell us straight up exactly what you're going to do. No codified language, because if they're speaking in codified language, then you can rest assured that they're not going to be doing anything at all. That is something that has been historically proven over and over and over again, right? But I want to touch on this very quickly because I want you to see how he keeps stringing Black Chicago along with this disinvested community talk. He's always stringing Black Chicago along because many believe that he's speaking about them when he says this, but he never takes action on this. So I just want to go through a few things right now. Give me just a second while I pull one of his most recent tweets up where he discussed disinvested communities in Chicago, right? So let me move this article out the way and let's get back into actual Mayor Brandon Johnson's tweets, right? So Mayor Brandon Johnson at Chicago Mayor, and it states this, and this wasn't that long ago, okay? It was May 31st of this year. So it wasn't too long ago. What was that? Maybe about, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, something like that, or 3 weeks ago, right? And he says this. He says, it was great meeting philanthropists and advocates from across our city yesterday at my Impact House. The work of these incredible organizations is extraordinary for our communities. As mayor, I want to make historic investments in our residents and in our disinvested neighborhoods. I repeat, Brandon Johnson stated, as mayor, I want to make historic investments in our residents and in our disinvested neighborhoods. Has he done this yet? No. What disinvested neighborhoods mean? Once again, I don't know. But a lot of people in Chicago, a lot of Black folks in Chicago, and just a lot of us online, you know, those of us who are a little bit on the lost side, respectfully, we believe that he's talking about Black Chicago. But once again, if you didn't say that straight up, then I don't know what you're talking about. That's not what that means. And once again, that was May 31st. And now we move over to what is this? June 10th. Okay. So that was what? 11 days ago that this came out. So this comes from the Chicago City Wire, right? Mayor Johnson calls crime spree a manifestation of community disinvestment that has long gone unresolved too long. Now, let's see as we go through this if he's actually going to say anything about what he's going to do as it pertains to reinvesting into communities that have been historically disinvested, whatever that actually means. But before we do that, I want to thank Cedric for being the first person to contribute to today's stream via Cash App. Thank you very much, Cedric. I appreciate the support that you show me on this channel, and to all the support that you all show me for the work that I put in on this channel. It does not go unappreciated. Once again, Cedric, thank you very much, brother. Now let's get into this article very quickly. Okay, so let's see what he's talking about here. All right, this was 11 days ago. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson has responded to a spike in violent crime over Memorial Day weekend when 53 people were shot and 11 were killed, calling the spree intolerable, right? Johnson blamed much of the violence plaguing Chicago on what he called an extended period of disinvestment. I'm going to repeat that again. Johnson blamed, not me, not TD, Johnson blamed much of the violence plaguing Chicago on what he called an extended period of disinvestment in city neighborhoods, causing economic hard times, which leads some to a life of crime and violence as a means of survival. Johnson will go on to say, and this is a direct quote, "What we saw this weekend was a manifestation of community disinvestment, poverty, trauma that our city has struggled with for far too long." I'm going to repeat that again because I chopped it up a bit. What we saw this weekend was a manifestation of I keep chopping it up. Take 3. What we saw this weekend was a manifestation of community disinvestment, poverty, trauma that our city has struggled with for far too long. Now, we all understand, and give me just a second, because I want to make sure I'm going to give you all the link to this article in the live chat, right? Because I'm not going to read this whole thing, because guess what? Spoiler alert, if you do read this article for yourself, he didn't tell you what he was going to do for these disinvested communities. He still doesn't have a plan for these so-called historically disinvested communities yet. He doesn't have the plans for it yet. He keeps talking about it. He keeps talking a good game. We all know the correlation and connection between crime and poverty. He's not saying anything that we don't understand already, but he's refusing to do anything about it, right? He hasn't done anything yet. But when it comes to those so-called migrants that have arrived in the city of Chicago, it's raining money. It's raining millions of dollars. They're finding a way to pull money out of the sky. Manna is actually falling out of the sky for them. But for you, you get stuck with nothing but, I guess, I don't know, roaches, rats, and lumps of coal. And he's not doing anything about it, as well as violence. And he's clearly showing and stating that he understands the correlation, right? The connection between crime, poverty, and violence. But he's not doing anything about it. But honestly, and actually, my mistake. He is doing something for Black Chicago. And I don't even quite know what that is yet. But we are both going to find out together. And maybe, just maybe, because I haven't read this article yet, we will both, right? Or we will all be pleasantly surprised. Now, before I get into this article, there are 299 of you all in here right now. Please do me a favor, hit the like button if you haven't already. Hit that like button so that the signal goes out throughout the YouTube algorithm that people are actually interested in this content and that they will push this out. Also, if you haven't already, share this video, this stream on your social media platforms as well, so everyone knows I'm live. And lastly, if you're new to the channel, please make sure you hit the subscribe button as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button so you can be notified whenever I release a new video. And lastly, Oh, look at Black Light Revelations with the super chat. Thank you, Black Light. Yeah, if y'all don't know, I fire Black Light a lot. I fire Rob all the time. I rehire him all the time. I think this was just a bribe to get me back to hire him again. Okay. Because what you all don't know is that I secretly on the low, I fired Rob, last weekend. But I think he's trying to buy his way back into the TD Hip Hop Media Company. So we'll see how that goes, right? A shout out to you, Rob, for being the second contributor to today's stream. Now, let's get into what Mayor Brandon Johnson of Chicago is actually doing for the Black community. Let's find out. We're all going to see together because, like I said, I haven't read this article myself. And this article here comes from the Chicago Sun-Times, right? And let me pull this up for you now. Brandon Johnson, let me switch over. My apologies. Johnson vows to rebuild the social contract with Black Chicago, complete memorial to Berg torture victims. He's going to complete a memorial to, am I saying that right? Berg torture victims. So what does that exactly mean? He's going to complete a memorial. Are we talking about more statues? Is he going to build a park for Black Chicagoans? Are we going to build more statues? Is there another holiday coming? More symbolism. Is that what we're talking about, Brandon Johnson? I don't know. Well, let's find out exactly what he's talking about, I guess. Thank you very much, Janesta Coleman, for being the third person to contribute to today's show. And also thank you very much, Maul B Crazy, for being the fifth person to contribute to today's show. Thank you very much. The contributions that come towards this show and towards this channel is much appreciated and does not go unnoticed. Now let's find out what's actually happening. I mean, are we getting more statues, more parks, and more holidays in Chicago for Black Chicagoans? Let's find out together because I have no idea, right? Mayor Brandon Johnson promised Friday to rebuild the social contract with Black Chicago, beginning with the actual building of a permanent memorial to former police commander John Berg, torture victims, John Berg, torture victims that was promised in 2015. Under my watch, we will make sure that the brutal history of police brutality is fully addressed, Johnson said before the Juneteenth flag was raised in Daley Plaza. Well, we all know that many Black men were tortured at the hands of police. And under my watch, we are finally going to complete the Chicago Torture Justice Memorial. Lord. Okay. Although African Americans have made incredible progress since being freed from the bondage of slavery, Johnson said, Chicago's Black community still reels from systemic racism and regressive policies that have held us back. Black people still grappling with the history of redlining and contract buying and building highways through Black neighborhoods, further segregating and isolating our people, he said. For decades, Black communities were disregarded and disinvested. He loves that disinvested term, doesn't he? The disinvested. Okay. With an impact that still reverberates today, he said. So far, I haven't heard anything about, anything concerning any real plans to address all the things that he just said, right? He's going to build a memorial and some sort of building, a structure, I guess a park or a statue. How any of that addresses all of what he just said right there is beyond me. But, I don't know. There are 358 of you in here right now. Please hit the like button. As we continue, I believe I'm right here. In our most recent history, the city saw the closure of predominantly Black schools where 1,000 Black children are still missing as a result of that historic act. 233 of them were West Siders, he told the crowd. As we continue to see stores close, residents being forced out of the West and South Side of Chicago, fewer have access to options like healthy food and medicine and other necessities. Make no mistake about it, Chicago, we still have work to do. Honestly, I don't think I need to read any more of this. Wait a minute. I see a dollar amount. I see a dollar amount. Let's see what this dollar amount is about. Uh, the city council promised to create a permanent memorial to Berg torture victims 8 years ago as part of the agreement that authorized $5.5 million in reparations to 57 victims. $5.5 million for a memorial. Yeah, I don't see any more dollar amounts getting thrown around here. I don't see any plans. I don't see anything else. The article, the rest of this article is really not worth reading because he's telling us everything that we know and understand already. He gave us a very quick Black history lesson as far as, the history of Black Chicago. But what's the plan? What's the plan? You're sitting here talking about redlining and historic disinvestment and segregation and all types of oppression towards Black Chicago. And instead of actually addressing these things, right, directly and head on, you're going to get a memorial. You're going to get, I guess, some statues, some sort of a structure, maybe a little mini park. Yeah, that's what we're doing in Chicago. That's what Brandon Johnson is doing for Black Chicago. Statues, structures, parks. But as it pertains to actually putting in the proper investment into the Black community so that they can thrive, right? And that we can correct the wrongs of contract buying and redlining and putting freeways through Black neighborhoods and all that stuff. No, nothing. But then again, what can we expect, right? Because he didn't actually say when he was running for mayor of Chicago that he was going to do anything for Black Chicago. He didn't say he was going to do anything for Black Chicago. What he did tell you is that he's going to invest more money into the so-called migrant crisis in Chicago, and that's what he's doing. He's staying true to his word. And I guess you can say he's staying true to his word or lack thereof as it pertains to what he's going to do for Black Chicago, because he didn't say he was going to do anything for you, and he still isn't, outside of symbolic gestures, which is the norm. Yep. Vote blue no matter who, I guess. That is working out great for us. So with all that being said, today's a very quick stream. That's going to do it for today's show. I know this is pretty, 23 minutes in. I don't really need to beat a dead horse. I really don't. There are 413 of you in here right now. Please hit the like button if you haven't already. And I just want to take a quick moment to thank the rest of you who showed more contributions to the channel thus far and for today's stream. Walter Wilbarn, thank you very much for the contribution to today's show. And also James Mitchell, thank you as well. TD's got a great channel with receipts. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I think I do, actually. I think my channel is pretty great. And I do bring the receipts. I do bring the receipts. But like I said, I don't need to beat a dead horse. What more is there left to say? This is just more of the same. More of the same. But some way, somehow, when people like myself discuss this, like I always say, I am the one giving you misinformation, right? I'm the one giving you disinformation. These are apparently and allegedly right-wing talking points, right? But either I'm telling the truth or I'm not. Either this is the truth or it's a lie. And as far as I see so far, and as far as all the evidence shows, I've been telling the truth about Brandon Johnson this entire time. Okay. But I don't know. Hopefully, we will all wake up to this kind of nightmarish political situation pretty soon. Only time will tell. So with all that being said, thank you for joining me today. Please hit that like button on your way out if you haven't already. Thank you for all of you who contributed to today's show. And I will catch you again, I believe, this Friday with another live stream. So I will see you then. Hit that like button on your way out. Thank you for joining me and have a great evening. Peace.